Good afternoon and welcome back to the live stream coverage of the Youth Club Championship portion of this 2019 U.S. Open tournament. I'm Erin Maraca and I promised you a special guest star. This is Manisha Dariani. We call her Slap. In the community, she is awesome and she's very familiar with the matchup that we're about to cover here. We are tuning into a U-20 boys division YCC game between Buda from Boston and Red Dawn from the Bay Area. Slap, can you tell us a little bit about maybe what you know about the level of play we're going to watch here, and maybe some players to watch from Red Dawn?
Absolutely, and in fairness, again, I only have half that roster. My Bay Area roots are showing here, y'all, so I'm going to be focused on the Bay Area team. So, I mean, I'm going to have a little home time bias in this case. But yes, absolutely, I'm so excited to be here and to be commentating on a game where I do know actually half of these players. I've had an opportunity to coach half of these young men for the past 6 months. In terms of game-changing players on Red Dawn, I think Leo is someone we should be definitely looking for. His last name is Gordon, and also Keaton Villardo are two players who are just absolutely dynamic handlers who are going to be looking to just move the ball as quickly as they can. If I suspect I know anything about Red Dawn, this is a team that's going to be trying to use movement and use their legs. And I'm very excited to see how they match up against this Buda roster. I don't know anything about them, but we're going to learn them about together.
I couldn't agree more. We were talking in the last game about, you know, how the nature of youth club is that players, you know, are eligible for the age range and then eventually age out of the bracket. So it's interesting to see how these youth teams kind of embody the style of ultimate that maybe the club scene also experiences. Do you feel like the Bay Area has kind of a signature ultimate style or some kind of offense that they really teach all the young players first or anything like that?
Unfortunately not. I think in some ways the Bay Area Disc Association and just the Bay Area community in general is a couple years behind some of these other disc organizations, but we're getting there. We're getting to a point where I think I agree. You're going to start to normalize offenses, so these players, as they start to age up into from U17 into U19 into college into club, are going to start to see more consistency. Right now we have actually just a great wealth of coaches in the Bay Area who all teach very different styles, but I'll offer that I think that's actually really good for these players.
I would agree with that. I think that's one of the hallmarks of a, you know, well-trained and like a versatile player is the ability to adapt and switch back and forth into multiple sets. So we are underway right now. Red Dawn from the Bay Area are in their white jerseys with the pink italics and light blue numbers, and Buda in the navy blue. Buda was pulling to start this game, and we're seeing, just as Slap kind of predicted originally, is some fast motion between these Bay Area teams. You know, in a way that the club championship maybe is an advantage for a commentator with many known names. We are going to have a little bit of a ramp-up period as we learn the names of these players and who's getting the most touches. So that was number 17 from Red Dawn. That is Leo, another Slap prediction. Right away striking on that O-line hold.
I love it when I'm right. But it was also just a good point to point out, like we saw that Red Dawn came out in a horizontal offense, and yet Buda playing sort of a saggy, poachy offense, a defense, was still actually not able to contain the sort of the momentum and the ability to break, which I expect Red Dawn to continue to capitalize on as we this game continues.
I certainly hope so. You know, this is another pool play game here at YCC. Saturday is the first day of competition for the youth club division, in juxtaposition to the the regular club tournament, which is on its second day. So I understand that you coach the Berkeley High boys.
So actually what I coach is a U19 club team. So
that's
I
amazing.
had players from 6 actually high schools represented out of the Bay Area. Actually, I'm fortunate enough that about 14 of the boys on Red Dawn were players I actually got to coach through the season, but those they represent multiple schools. And we ran a season starting in October, ran it till about May, where we practiced about twice a month. and we ended up taking these guys to college tournaments.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, it was actually a really wonderful experience. It was an investment and a decision made by Bay Area Disc to sort of invest in offering additional opportunities for these elite athletes. Of course, you know, well, to your point, making their skill sets more well-rounded.
That's a very cool opportunity. You mentioned an October through May season, and I was immediately, as a Minnesotan, like, what?
Can you play that long?
No, we would have to go indoors, but a cool option nonetheless. Maybe something that a lot of these other states could model and experience after, but sadly, when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, we can't do something like that. We're seeing Buda right now with their own offensive points. And similarly, we're going to figure out really quickly who these players to watch are. This is number 15, James Cairn with the disc.
And something also to know, we see part of it in the camera angle. We see Buda coming out in a vert stack, just sort of cycling through those cutters, relying on those handler resets to get the disc reset.
It's a nice round break that hits Shriver. And using the lateral space, great look there to Orion Cable, a name that I recognize maybe from last year, I believe. He may be a Worlds player, but I might have to confirm that. He just sounds familiar, and that's something that happens in YCC these days.
But that's actually, isn't that just a good indication of just how good these players are, that we're now talking about them not only in the context of these YCC teams, but in the context of representing the United States?
Yeah, it's really cool. Orion Cable, 6'5", tallest member of the Buda roster. I think he and this number 15, Cairn, are going to be 2 of the players that we see with the disc a lot. Red Dawn defensive O-line now with a little bit of a chance. So they're working it. That's Rosenberg back to Spiker, I believe.
Luca, yeah. Is he going to catch it?
Oh. And that was Nathan Buckles, 6'1", able to get a hand on that over the top. So another shot at O here from Buda. I think they're still settling in, getting their sea legs here out in Blaine today.
I mean, both teams just came off a round before, so it's not even getting their sea legs. It's remembering that they still have to have legs.
It is difficult. So do you maybe know how the YCC tryout situation works in the Bay Area? That's often a really interesting situation to compare.
Yeah, so this year, Bay Area Disc made a decision.
Wow.
Great grab. To invest a little bit further into the YCC program. But let's see what happens with this play first.
Yeah.
That's a great
staying Osborne nearly with the second effort, and after some stifling defense in that end zone and a game-saving bid from Cable. Buda wise there, I think, to take that shot, and you know, it was really close. It almost worked out.
I mean, that's what their vert stack is intended to do, create those isolation deep shots. Right now, they're going to have to contest with the fact that the Red Dawn players are doing really well about covering that space.
It's Chang upfield to Huang, I believe.
Yes.
I'll get better and better at pronunciation, I promise. That is Gordon, intercepted by Cable again. Kind of an impossible player to miss in the backfield. Here we go, a markless put by number 12, Luca Hardwood. A little bit too far there for Orion Cable, who's been kind of all over the field so far this point.
I mean, this is a chance for both teams, especially early on, to sort of like demonstrate what their skill sets are, because I think that then kind of fills into that pattern that you come in later to the game. You know what this team is going to go deep on you, and they're trying to create those looks now.
We're out on the wide side with Spiker. Back through with the effort.
I mean, no matter the outcome at this point, Red Dawn's got to feel good that they've had 3 shots at the end zone. And some of those decisions just were the first throw was a little too high, the second was shorted, third one was shorted. But they clearly have the looks. They're getting open. They just have to remain patient.
Totally agree with that sentiment. Buda picking up. That was 22, Davis Brand. And that wide swing to Cable changes the fields for this Buda offense. They're hoping to isolate cutters in that backspace. That's Buckles again. Up line, just a little bit high, maybe hard to read off the fingertips of James Cairn.
I mean, it definitely sounds like their offense is, or seems like their offense is going to amount to.
Oh, well read and well defended there by number 21. That's Jonas Stang Osborne. He's just 16, already making a couple big plays here for this U-20 team.
I mean, that must tell you a lot about the depth of the Buda's programming to say we have the 16-year-old who's good enough to be here.
Yeah, I am always really interested. There's always a team or two at the tournament who bring like well, I guess not anymore since the U17 division actually formed, but back in the day there used to be 14 and 15-year-olds on those U20 teams. But a good sign for maybe our development is the ability to staff both a U20 and a U17 team from many of these metros.
I imagine this point feels very tiring at this point because I think there's got to be at least more than 10 turnovers so far.
Yeah, I would definitely give you the over-under on 10 there. Hopefully Buda here within striking distance can find some space.
Yeah, this is the first time we've actually sort of seen their end zone set. They haven't actually gotten this close.
And that is...
You know, that said, having now been an O-line player, you don't want to have that many turns.
No, you do not. But to be able to trust in being in games that have observers right now, or is it still kind of a rarity?
Well, I think it depends on the program. To your earlier question about what YCC, the Barrier Disc has been doing with the YCC teams, they're forming them earlier so that the teams have at least one tournament under their belt.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And it's hit or miss if those tournaments have observers or not. So I do actually think for a lot of these players, again, I'm generalizing, but it is one of their first times that they're having observed games, unless they've previously played on a YCC team.
Towe throws into a poach by Jaden Bush, and we will have a break opportunity here for Buda after that really arduous O-line point. That's Riley. Riley finding that around break, but it seems like there might be a pick call in the backfield, and Lee still with the disc for Buda.
Again, Buda staying in that vert stack. Let's see if the ISOs are coming out of the front. Yep.
Nice sky there. So I think that's Jack Rice. Back out to number 36, Zach Riley. Round give and go with Lee. Just a little handler movement here, and Lee close to the end zone.
Stoppage of play. I don't know if anyone saw that replay. I think he just
fell maybe?
No, tabletop.
Oh, tabletopped. Okay.
That's the word.
That's the word for sure. Lee really just on the end zone line, looking for somebody to make some space. Nice little give-go there between Zach Riley and Lee. They have a handful of passes between each other, and they, with their first break of the game, find number 8, Jaden Bush. And I think he got the D, so that might be bookends, or at least one of the Ds.
Well, you know what was also very cool about that? We're sort of seeing these isolation end zone sets where we're trying to sort of attack the open side of the field, but the Buda players were very comfortable with sort of button hooking back into the. Did you see the tabletop?
Yeah, I saw now. I did not catch it the first time around. Sorry, Slab.
It's quite all right, but the Buda players are button hooking back to the break side of the field, which is giving them an opportunity to hit these little IOs as the players try to creep around.
It's a good way to keep the defender
honest
and entertained. Slap and I are here, and we want to do a good job, and we also want to hear more about you and where you're tuning in from. So if you'd like to get a hold of us on Twitter, we've got the handles up here on the screen right now. You can use that hashtag US Open Champs. I don't think we have trivia without Tony because he's the man who wrote the book, the historian. But we'll do our best to get better at pronunciation. And if you have any tips or tricks or fun facts for us about these teams, we'd love to hear it.
In fairness, what you're seeing is my team's Twitter handle, as I am social media less. So actually it'd be quite entertaining if you all tweet at Nightlock Ultimate, because you will confuse our Twitter person immensely.
Okay, peeps, this sounds like a really excellent side project for us on a late Saturday afternoon. Confuse the Nightlock social media committee. Let's do that some more.
I'm all about it. They can handle it.
They can totally handle it.
They're done for the day.
Oh, well then great.
Yeah. We had 2 games today, and now thankfully we're done. Only one more game left tomorrow. As you earlier mentioned, the ICC tournament is winding down just as the YCC tournament is heating up.
Yeah. As a coach of these players, do you really, like, do they come home from these tournaments and tell you about the memories that they made? Is it impactful for them to be here among some of the most talented players in the world?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what's wonderful about these boys is, they carry a level of pride with them, I think, as every roster does, wanting to, demonstrate their skill set, demonstrate the schools they've come from, the coaches and programs they represent, and of course, the fact that they're representing Bay Area Disc in this case, or Buda, respectively, certainly there's an amount of pride that comes there too. And I think these boys wear it, own it, and as a result, that's why we see such like impassioned celebrations afterwards and such crushing defeat when things aren't going well.
I'm glad to hear that. I was really pleased yesterday to have a full sideline for it was a seating placement game, but it was between Brute Squad and Revolution, and there were probably 100 young women here watching, and that's one of the reasons why teams come out here. That's one of the reasons why the event kind of merged together, and I think it's a really valuable tool in the development of our sport. A little bit of an errant wide throw there between Gordon and Kirkham Davis. Yep. So that's unfortunate miscue in the backfield by this Red Dawn O-line. So we'll see Buda's D-line, I think mostly the same as the last D-line that was out there. That is Zach Riley again working with Lee. And Lee threw the last assist. And he finds Couts, I believe, number 6, who he put that to space, and I think he was expecting one of maybe 3 receivers to go get it.
But that's one of the advantages of hitting the break side, right? Because your defender is already out of position. Then you just have to put a disc up to space and trust that a receiver is going to come down with it because they're already open.
Agree. Great find there. A lot of vision from Zero J. Lee. One of the other really fun things about YCC is that we get to give college teams a preview of who they get to have as freshmen next year. I saw, a bunch of tweets out in Ultimate Twitter from various college teams basically saying, YCC players, if you want to come to our college, please come talk to us. So, this Buda team obviously going to be feeding mostly East Coast schools. We got some UMass freshmen coming in, some William and Mary freshmen coming in, some Vermont freshmen coming in, and then the odd Cal Poly SLO and Colorado. You are each getting a freshman from this Buda team.
Cal Poly's freshman class is going to be so good this upcoming college season. They have picked up a number of phenomenal young players through YCC programs and through the U-19 programs. They are going to be a force in the next few years in California and the Southwest region.
Of course. And the Red Dawn players, a lot of them staying on that West Coast, Oregon, Colorado Boulder, Santa Clara. Leo Gordon, as you mentioned, is going to Brown University. We also got UCLA. Oh, we got another Brown, Elliot Rosenberg. Oh, and another Carleton College in 2020, Aiden Price from Red Dawn. But a couple other California schools. Oh, wow, 3 Brown. Noah Balbarak is coming to Brown as well. That's 3 freshmen from one YCC team. That's a lot. It used to be that the freshman class of a college team needed like a lot of work, a lot of development. And over the years, the number of players who come into college programs ready to play high level has been gradually increasing, which, increases parity across the board and increases elite play across the board.
It also means that every year the college division shifts fundamentally. If your freshman class can make or break your program.
Oh, a foot block there. That's number 26, Seth Wells from Red Dawn. He's going to Boulder, and he just got a foot block.
He did, and his mom's here.
Good job. Good job with that support staff. That's always really important.
This has been the most fun part about YCCs is to see the number of parents who get equally as invested as their players.
I love that. So Red Dawn here with a short field to work on. That's Towe with the disc. Oh, an IO break. That's a low release, well-placed disc to Daniel Landsman, also going to Colorado Boulder. Or no, yep, Colorado Boulder. So 2 Colorado Boulder players for next year, integral to that point. And it is 3-2. Buda is up just 1 point.
Yeah, they're up the break right now, or 2 breaks actually. But again, what we finally saw was Red Dawn moving the disc. Part of what we saw with the 2 turnovers really early on was that in one instance it was Gordon, and the other instance it was Price, just kind of holding onto the disc a little too long. As a result, the count just got a little too high, which just creates those high pressure situations, which as an offensive player, you just don't want to put yourself in.
No. Oh, gosh, that's a great foot block. This is
another angle of it.
Yeah. Wow. Nicely done.
It reminds me of the foot block that Samia got at U-24.
Yes.
I don't know if you've been on the USAU website. They put that up as a clip. She actually broke the disc.
Right.
Because she stomped on it.
Oh, it's a good active mark, though. A lot of people don't use their feet on the mark nearly enough, and good to see those fundamentals at play already in these 17 and 18-year-olds. So we'll see another defensive line from Red Dawn. Looks like a little bit of an influx of new faces. We have kind of a set starting D, it looked like, that had a number of similar players on it, those kind of back-to-back points. But this looks like some new guys who are getting in the game for the first time.
As you should. It's hot out, y'all.
Yeah, it is hot. The widget went up. We were talking, Slab, in the last game. The temperature went up more than 5 degrees in like 1 hour. It was incredibly hot.
Yeah, you felt it as a player.
Yes, we felt it in the booth. Oh, well, this is a new defensive look from Red Dawn.
Yeah, it looks like a saggy sort of junk look, almost like a...
Yeah, they're in the lanes.
It's like a 3-3-1, except that they're not actually having the far side handler come up.
Yeah, looks more like a kind of a wall in that first tier than maybe a cup, but Buda adapting well and finding some spaces.
I think there was a travel call.
Yep. Luca Harwood is going to UMass next year. That's number 12. He just threw that.
I always enjoy watching people reenact calls.
Yes.
It's like miming.
I like to think of it as like a forensic investigation. Right, I stepped here. You can see this bent, broken piece of grass. That means that I was here.
It's clearly here.
No, I appreciate that. Good to see conversations develop. Of course, that's part of us teaching the youths, right? Ooh, a contested scuba look, followed by
bad decision.
A blade over the top.
I mean, we got to call it out what it is. I mean, I understood what the look was, but just putting it across, there was 3 Red Dawn players between the thrower and the receiver. Good defense by Red Dawn. Again, my bias is showing.
That's great. I'll try to correct you and cheer for Buda. We have here number 30, Lou, with the disc. These around. That's floating a little bit. Number 27 from Buda, Orion Cable in pursuit. Red Dawn with the little red zone offense, trying to find spaces. I've been really impressed so far today with the discipline of the defensive O-lines that we've been seeing. Oh, this nice leading pass was definitely caught, but whether or not he was in is being
the observer's
discussed.
Actually signaling travel, which is interesting. Oh, I guess because he didn't. Oh, he ran in.
There we go. So that's number 14, Viadro, with the disc. Trying to figure out where to tap the disc in again. Buda in a little bit of a tight spot here, but pretty good defense so far. Oh! And that is that 16-year-old again with the D.
It looks like it's a non-contested foul, so we're going to keep it on the end zone line.
All right.
Ideally, I would like Red Dawn to be going the other way. Going to the break side would be ideal, but all right.
But jamming it up, that sideline is something that I think our entire sport enjoys doing for no particular reason.
I think there's this sense of like, it's a closer pass, I should throw it.
Right. I believe that was Rosner from Red Dawn who scored that one, number 4. So we are at 3s.
Yeah, it looks like, so that's Red Dawn at least getting one of the breaks back. You saw the turnover by Buda. And then now what we're seeing is the replay of that end zone set. Viardo trying to make his way into the end zone. Unfortunately, just was first point of contact was outside the end zone. See that hard, close pass. That was an uncontested foul. And then again, let's just go back to the open side.
Oh, we're going to see this again?
Yeah. And you can see why he's calling the foul, because the bid is to the back, but it's obviously affecting his left hand.
I agree. I also appreciate how quickly that resolved. There wasn't really a stoppage for more than about 3 seconds. There was just, I call this, I contest, or I uncontest, non-contest, I don't
check
contest.
the desk back in, yep.
Words are hard right now. It's the hot end of the afternoon.
And you've been slaving here all day.
It's okay. We're doing a good job. I'm drinking some water. But yeah, we were baking in the hot sun for a little bit there too. We had an umbrella up. It was great. It was great fun.
I get to come hang out in the shade, so this is great for me.
I know. You know, that is a good segue to remind everyone that we have some amazing camera operators in the immediate vicinity who are baking on the top of some hot platforms and are reapplying sunscreen as often as they possibly can. They get a lot of great shots for us. They produce a lot of really great angles and get a lot of these things on camera, even though things are happening so fast. They're reading the play. They know enough about Ultimate to read the play and anticipate, and that's a skill set that we all really appreciate. But yeah, they're probably way hotter than I am, so I'm gonna stop complaining right now.
And we're seeing Red Dawn again kind of coming out in that sort of saggy, I want to call it a 3-3-1. We're seeing a front line of defenders, a secondary line kind of in the middle of the field. The goal being that they want to have the disc move laterally rather than up the field.
And until I was about to say that there is no wind, there was just a teeny gust. So we may see some inconsistency happen as players adjust to that little gust. Even just feeling a gust can sometimes throw a thrower off their path.
There's that, and also, I think whether you're in YCC, ICC, there's the, I just played the zone, I just broke the first line, now I have to move the disc faster.
Yes.
But the temptation has to be almost resisted to say, wait a second, you actually now have to play more disciplined.
It's a nice upline double move from Leo Gordon. And that around break through, I think, Landsman. All the way up. These are all through the middle. Ooh.
Can we get a replay of that?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So Orion Cable interrupts a pass, and they're going to send it back, but we will see another look at it here. Spiker throws to continue. I'm going to not get that number, but yeah, Orion Cable rips through on that disc. And, it resolved quickly. It went back, and Red Dawn capitalized with an easy one-throw conversion off of that stoppage. Do you have any thoughts on that, Slap?
Well, one, I mean, what I appreciate as part of the spirit of the game system was, you could either sit and argue about who got the disc first, or you sent it back, which I appreciated came right back immediately. Then we had a quick check back in to the point we're still playing the replay, and you see Red Dawn score. I mean, that to your earlier point, it's an opportunity for us to see how conflict resolution is happening in real time. And what was really great about this Red Dawn score is it's happening on the break side, which was different from their last score where they were just jamming it up the open side. And you see how much easier it is. I hope they see it as well. I preached a lot of this to them as when I was coaching them. I would like to hope that my voice is somewhere in their mind saying, go to the break side, go to the break side.
Well, even though Slap and I are in the shade, it is a heat timeout. We hope that our camera operators are drinking some water and taking care of themselves as well. While we are up 4 degrees since just the beginning of this game, which is what we've seen over the course of the day, right? The humidity started near 80% today and is all the way down to 45%. But the temperature has been rising 4 or 5 degrees in every round
it's
today.
Like dry heat now.
Yes, it's definitely a factor. It's definitely important for these kids to get in a shade tent. Even our spectators are doing a pretty good job of arriving with shade tents. And we do have some spectators on the field, which is always good to see. I think as we take this break, we can talk a little bit more. You alluded to it a little bit, but I started talking a little bit about spirit of the game in the last round and tried to explain to folks at home kind of the nature of a spirit huddle and what it's for. But you know, as a coach of this particular age group in this particular division, what kinds of, you know, intentional actions do you take to make sure that the youths learn spirit of the game and are actively exercising that along with everything else they're learning about Ultimate?
Oh, you asked the loaded question now?
We bear a lot of responsibilities, Slap.
You know, I've been fortunate to be coaching for about 8 years. This is one of my first forays into coaching boys versus girls. And in the end, I think what we're teaching is you got to respect your opponent. You got to understand that both of you are trying to compete. Competition inevitably means someone wins and loses. But the experience of competition, the experience of battling on the field is one of mutual respect. And it's recognizing that both of us are trying to achieve this thing, this W, this win, this elusive win, yet at the same time are trying to play within the rules. I think a lot of what I preach is knowing the rules. You can't actually begin a conversation on how we are enforcing the rules unless we actually know it. So there's a lot of discussions of just taking opportunities to read the rule book, or when there's discussions or about questions about the rules, we have a lot of discussions about, okay, well, what was the rule? What was the outcome there? And how could we change, if necessary, how we respond to those situations? And I think it's just a lot of feedback that has to be given, both from coaches and from the players themselves. Like, you can't just say it's only the coach's responsibility. I'm a big proponent that the players have to also, you know, help each other just as much as coaches are there, parents are there, you know, league organizers or what have you are also there. It necessitates just sort of a group effort and just reinforcement and practice.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we have attracted some folks in Facebook comment streams over the last couple of days who are new to Ultimate, right? Who have stumbled upon the feed, whether it was, you know, retweeted or shared in some other capacity on Facebook, and kind of have said, you know, what is this? What are the rules? And I have really enjoyed seeing our community in those threads kind of provide the answers and try to give synopsis. And I think it's important for those folks to realize that, you know, we have a gentleman on the field in an orange shirt who's behaving in kind of an educational observer capacity, but all of these players are responsible for knowing the rules and for basically being an official and a self-advocate, if you will, for themselves at any point in the game. I've heard a lot of coaches say, you know, there are 14 officials on the field at a time
at any given point
in Ultimate, and so, you know, I appreciate when people stumble upon our sport and are interested and think, right, think it's exciting, think it's fast-paced, think it might be something that they'd like to do, and they immediately ask to see what the rules are. But I don't think they understand that if they started playing, they would be kind of an owner. They would be a steward of those as well. So really appreciate these young people carrying all that knowledge with them in addition to the, you know, physical talent and the physical skill sets that they're employing.
I think it's attractive both to parents of young players who are looking to provide opportunities for, you know, their young male or female athletes. And also, again, to your point, to a game that is pretty fun to watch, but also, again, has this unique component of having that, I love the phrase, 14 officials on the field at any given time.
We're going to see Red Dawn back in a little bit of a junk look, right, that Slap and I still have not quite identified.
No, I think it's a 3-3-1. I feel good about it.
Okay. We'll wait and see how this goes. Number 12 with a scuba over the top to Orion Cable. Number 12, of course, Harwood. There are a few players on this Buda team in a faded red hat, so I'm just working through identifying which of the faded red hats are with the disc right now. So that's Harwood.
The scuba game is strong.
I know. There have been a lot of scubers this weekend. That's Karen in the backfield. They throw another scuba slap. That's like 3 in the last minute.
Can we get an over-under? What do you think?
I don't know. The most scubers happened yesterday morning right away before I had my coffee, and I was slightly alarmed. So this is already less. 22 taking a shot at Orion Cable. So that was Davis Brand sending it downfield with a little bit of edge on it.
Actually, what the scubers are telling you is that these players are developing skill sets and throwing skill sets that, you know, perhaps me and my, how many years of Ultimate have I played?
I don't throw scubers.
I play a lot of Gold Tee, so I do. But
okay. Yeah, I think I was too rigid in my existing throw kit. I did manage to teach myself an offhand left hand and a high release.
But that's the thing.
These are not.
These players are learning it as part of their just regimen. It's normalized for them.
Oh, they're so good. They're so young and they're so good and they're going to be so good. Sorry, that's just I'm just impressed all the time.
I mean, I think we should be. I mean, again, if we're thinking about the future of this sport, we're watching it right now. And as we look at their skill sets, we look at their disc handling skills, I mean, that just leaves a lot to say, what is your ceiling? If this is what it looks like now at U19, what is your ceiling?
Yes. Cable able to have just a lot of range right now and use his height maybe.
I think we lost the over-under.
Yeah, I think we did. More scoobers. Yep.
Travel was called.
Karen trying to step through that mark. And
what I appreciate is the patience coming out of the Buda players. I would almost tell my Nightlock teammates to take a thing or two from this.
It can be difficult against a zone. It can be antsy. And I mean, that's one of the strategic parts of a zone, right? To throw an offensive line out of their normal, out of their automatic, and make them think a little bit more about their choices.
And make them impatient.
Yes. That's still Davis Brand.
I mean, again, one of the other things is to notice the fact that Red Dawn, even though they're only 10 yards outside the end zone, are still playing it. They're still sagging into these lanes. They're not clamping down. Even though the space is much more condensed, they're still very comfortable to just let off some of these more shorter passes, and apparently some scoobers.
A lot of scoobers. Yeah, that was a Shriver to Davis Brand to Harwood to Cable combination. And
say that 3 times fast.
I don't know if I remember it already now that it's out of my mouth, but scoobers employed to go over the top of the zone, which, you know, could be part of the point of the Red Dawn zone is to make them go over the top. Scoobers harder to control than most of our other throw sets in Ultimate.
But to your point, even though there's a slight wind, it's clearly not a wind that's affecting these types of throws. And you know, I think I was keeping count. I think that was 6 scoobers all in all in that point. But one of the advantages is when you are trying to play a zone and the only lanes you're giving is through a person, well, go over that person. And so I don't know, will we see Red Dawn continue to play that zone, or will they go into a person defense? I'm curious to see.
I am too. I think that's one of the other interesting things about a YCC team, right? Clearly, I mean, you've coached a number of players on this Red Dawn team in a club capacity, but that idea that all of these athletes play on their own high school team, right? Probably in, you know, apart from the kind of exception of your like parallel club experience, but maybe in 1s and 2s, maybe occasionally a few more for one of the top teams in the region or the kind of metro area, but they come with a lot of different knowledge sets, right? Each of those high school teams probably has a slightly different defensive look or a slightly different culture or a slightly different stack formation. And so to get them all on the same page quickly is, yeah. I mean, I've coached a little bit of YCC, but I imagine it's one of the main challenges, and you have to maybe on the first day of practice be like, we're going to learn this zone today.
Right.
And we're going to run it all the time.
This is our system. But again, you know, I think we talked about that as we sort of began this broadcast, you know. Every coach is coming in with sort of these different preferences for their offense and defense. And now this Red Dawn and these Buda rosters are learning the YCC coaches' preferences.
Buda looks like they're maybe sitting in lanes a little bit here, but now I think they're falling into a person because Red Dawn is moving it too quickly, and that is a really easy score by the Red Dawn players.
It's tale of two offenses. You saw Buda was very patient. That point took maybe 6 minutes long. Red Dawn, seeing the same sort of saggy junk look, shreds it in about 30 seconds.
Off to the races, yes. And Gordon at the helm here with probably the most touches and the vision to find his teammate here in the middle of the field. Thank you for knowing that off the top of your head.
One of the boys I coached.
I do wish that the numbers were on the front of the shorts.
We'll talk to Barry Disc for next year.
Okay. Right. That's my feedback loop for you.
All right. I think the Barry Disc director is down there. We can tell him later.
All right. That sounds great.
Yeah. Which is, by the way, great. The fact that, again, Barry Disc has sent 5 rosters here. We're in every division.
Okay.
And this has been truly a community-oriented event. We had, I think, 101 athletes that we have out here.
That's amazing.
Uh-huh. And then, of course, in some ways, I think an equal number of parents because we have such involved community from top to bottom. So these players obviously are on their way to being successful athletes, but it does take a village. It takes a great deal of effort coming from the organizational standpoint, and as well as these parents who are basically hydrating these kids, feeding these kids, shading these kids, making sure that they know where to be and when. And of course, here just to enjoy the game.
I appreciate them. I appreciate that a lot.
But let's not also forget, I think there's parents watching at home as well. We say hi to you. I know you actually find yourself very thankful that you're not out here in this heat.
Oh goodness, yeah. We've kind of put our handles up on Twitter, but there is a Facebook comment stream and I believe a YouTube comment stream as well. We love to hear, where you all are right now and where you're tuning in from. Maybe anything that you are really rooting for in a game like this. Still pool play, right? Still pretty new tournament. A lot of teams working through some stuff, but competition will certainly ramp up tomorrow as these youth club teams reach bracket play. And of course, today and tomorrow we are bouncing back and forth on the live stream between ICC club games and YCC youth games, and so we are going to see a pretty diverse set of games, game strategies, and competition levels over the next kind of 36 hours or so.
Yeah, but ICC is definitely winding down. As I said, YCC is eating up. We're actually at the semifinal stage for ICC today, leading into finals for tomorrow. Where at this point, it still just remains to be seen, the shakeup of which are the top teams here at YCC, who's going to be in the bracket. That's actually still left to be decided.
Definitely a lot of excitement. Buda back on offense. Red Dawn in a person defense now instead of that zone look for maybe the first time.
Again, and we can understand why, right? If you were watching that last point, watching Buda very methodically break that zone, you do need to throw a different look at them. You need to force them to start using their legs and not just rely on what are seemingly very talented throwers to just break each other open.
Cairn and Davis Brand working with Shriver in the backfield. I believe another travel is being called.
Yes, the observer is signaling a travel call. One of the nice things about having the observers is that because we can't necessarily hear what the players are saying, the observers provide an opportunity to tell both the spectators and us what the calls are actually being discussed. It's one of the roles of the observer. It looks like there is no call, which is what the observer just signaled. I know he's not in your frame.
I can't give an opinion. I can explain what travels are if you want clarification on what a good travel call is.
No. Sorry, trying to check the Facebook stream and have...
I was like, is there an echo?
Yeah, I tried to go out to the Facebook comment stream on my phone and our playback video started playing on audio right away, so maybe that technology is over my head right now. We'll revisit that when we have a break. Buda, nicely done there. Number 22, Cole Davis Brand. To 15, James Cairn. James Cairn going to Vermont next year. A lot of talent on this Buda roster. Still fives here in this pool play game. It is the 4 seed versus the 5 seed matchup, so maybe
this should be a good game.
This should be a good game. Also a good indication that at least some of the seeding is accurate at the YCC tournament. A notoriously hard tournament to seed in the first place.
Again, we were talking earlier how maybe the college division will be changing each year, but so does the YCC divisions, because many of these players obviously graduate out, age out of these programs, and you're bringing in younger programs. In some ways, I think what will end up happening is that we'll start to judge, U-20 based on U-17 performances as they sort of age up into those. But it also leaves the mixed division as sort of a mixed bag, so to speak, because a lot of those, at least for Barrier Discs purposes, a lot of those players switch divisions. They'll switch actually between the mixed division and the open division, or the girls division and the mixed division.
Interesting.
Which I hope the players enjoy. I think there's been deliberate discussions about that, giving players opportunities to play within the different divisions. Because I think it's again, to the point we were talking about, makes better, well-rounded skill sets.
Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot. When I coached the Minnesota Mixed YCC team, I had a lot of players ask me kind of what is the difference between the kind of gender matching division and the mixed division. And it's hard to verbalize, and I don't want to make a comment now because I've been out of that scene as a coach for 5 or 6 years. So, and the rate at which they're improving is so remarkable that I feel like any advice I would have to offer is maybe wrong now. But I think it is.
The game hasn't changed that much.
Well, I don't know. I'm just hesitant to do that. But I do. It is a little bit of a different game, right? And roles can be different for anyone on a roster. Wow, a nice catch there. Some conversation about it.
Whether it's up or down, again, that was Noah Balboric with the grab. I mean, I'm going to offer my non-objective, objective perspective that it looked up, but we're going to see a replay so we can tell if this was right or not. Do we think it was up?
Love it.
I think that looked up.
We have a couple other angles on it, which would be helpful. Feel free to let us know what you think down
in
the comment.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's catching on the it's unfortunately confusing because the hand that we thought he was going to catch the disc with is not the hand that he ended up catching it with.
This is NFL level, y'all. Like, look at how many angles they just gave us. The disc went back, no real clear answer, and the parties couldn't agree. So again, the rules state that you send it back.
It's probably the right version, but if Tony were in the booth right now, he would say that the disc never lies.
Tony, that phrase is overused.
Oh, and Buda.
Impatient. Because again, Buda's got to see, hey, patience is their best friend here. Okay, well, maybe now we're just going to play an impatient game altogether.
Oh, goodness. Good effort on that. Oh, but we have a player down. So we're going to have to see what happened here. Looks like he's holding his left wrist, maybe?
What I appreciate and I hope what I just saw was the Red Dawn player going to check on him. But here's the thing. We're athletes. We're out here to compete. No one ever wants to see anyone get hurt. It looked like it was a pretty contested bid on D.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this is navigated by the coaches and the observer and see if there was a call on that collision.
It looks like there's some discussion between the two parties right now. The observer's sort of hovering, which is what they're supposed to do. The idea being that they're not supposed to affirmatively insert themselves into these conversations. They're supposed to basically be passive and asked for advice.
We're going to have one more look at this. This is the first replay we're having of this particular incident.
So we can see at this point what the discussion might be about. It's that number 4 is looking like he was arguing that he couldn't go up as a result of the play. It looks like they ended up going to the observer. Or not going to the observer. They're simply saying it's a contested foul, and they're going to send it back. And again, that's the thing about the observer. You don't have to use the observer. The observer is simply there. If you choose to go to the observer, obviously the observer will make a call. Alternatively, you can make the decision to decide, as the rules allow you to do, is to say, if we are disagreeing, we'll simply send the disc back.
Yeah, we've had the great opportunity to put some mics on observers over the course of the weekend, and so we've heard them kind of with that contractual language on a few occasions, right? Like, you have two choices. You can keep talking about it with yourselves and resolve this situation, or you can come to me.
And again, they try that same look to the same player going deep. I know that they have these very powerful throwers on Red Dawn, but at this point, coach's corner, I'm saying let's work the disc.
I agree with that assessment. Also, this is the most back and forth we've had in a point since the second
13 turnover point.
13 turnover point. So a lot of this just attributed, I think, to mental focus and the ability to kind of switch back and forth between the fire that you need to play defense and the calm that you need to play offense. And it can be really disruptive in a point like this to go back and forth. And I hope that one of these teams has a leader who can kind of be like, all right, this is it. This is the one. Wow.
That's
Lee
nice put deep.
Throws out to Drinkwater. Drinkwater has it on
looking for a reset. Looking for a reset.
And Lee finds number 36, Zach Riley. He's towing the line, and we are signaling that is in.
It took a second from the observer. The observer was just a little far away, and you do need to wait when there is an observer. You do need to wait for the observer to make the call, because that is an active call from these observers. The in and out calls are active for observers. So in the event of even if there's a dispute or not, it's the observer's call.
I appreciate a lot of things about this little end zone set. In particular, number 1, Chase Drinkwater, actually actively communicating both with his voice and his hands about exactly what he wanted to happen. I've told a number of players that when they have the disc, they're in charge, and that it's like okay to ask for exactly what you want. And then Lee finding Zach Riley in this really heads-up, toe-the-line situation. Zach Riley, of course, going to Cal Poly slow.
But you know what's also cool about that? Again, that whole play started with Lee on the huck, and yet Lee's the one trucking down the field, getting the disc, and then throwing that immediate goal. That, by the way, y'all who are watching at home, that is what handlers are supposed to do. Even when you throw the huck, you should be one of those first players coming back for that reset. Your job is not done by throwing the huck.
I love it. She's right. She's absolutely right. Let's listen to Slap. Let's all do what Slap tells us to do. Coach's corner.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Buda up 6-5. We are in this pool play matchup, day 1 of the YCC tournament. Just keep recapping that because I'm not sure how many people online are kind of joining us late. We continue to get kind of new influxes of sideline spectators, and so that's my indicator that people might need, you know, a little bit of an update on what's going on.
What's actually cool, if you're seeing some of the spectators, it's actually fellow members of the Barrier Disc YCC programs. One of the things that's I think is very cool, again, we sort of treated these 5 programs as sort of this one collective family. The teams are encouraged to support each other and have really sort of glommed onto that and said, yeah, no, we're going to go watch each other's games.
So this is interesting. So this is, I believe, an offsides call on this pull by Buda. It was a really good pull, unfortunately.
But it's offsides.
But it's offsides, so they will have to re-pull.
And again, offsides just means that none of the players can cross that goal line before the disc is released. That's the notion of offsides. Again, they just don't want you to have an advantage running down the field, because one of the most challenging things is to be able to take away the first pass, or at least challenging on the offense.
So Red Dawn on offense here, working through Aiden Curry and number 0, Michael Towe. Buda coaches shouting numbers from the sideline.
And what they're telling their players is to play a 45-degree angle because they want to generate these types of turnovers.
Harwood out to space for Drinkwater, and he excellently read, goes up and over his defender, and that's a break for Buda, and they are really excited about it. A lot of energy coming from them right now.
And let's not, again, coach's corner, let's not take away from the fact that adjustments are being made on the fly by these players. When you are making those adjustments with the mark, it makes those resets really hard. It forces these types of miscues, which then Buda did a great job in capitalizing on by just picking up the disc, having a receiver run deep. So we're seeing the Buda pick up the disc. He looks off for the dump, and then you just see someone going deep and say, hey, let's put it out to space. It was a contested pass, but Buda came down with it.
Emphatically.
I mean, they've got to be excited. It's a break.
It's absolutely a break. It's 7-5. So this point here for Buda, there's some discussion with the observer. Not quite sure what's going on.
So I think what usually the observer will come to by the end of the point, having seen observers in this situation, it's either the question of rushing the field.
There we go.
Or sometimes it's a question of the type of celebrations that happen or something that happens during celebrations. That's often when you see observer involvement after a point. And in this case, my guess is that they were warned on rushing the field.
Yeah. Yesterday, we saw an interesting situation where an active observer in one of the ICC games needed to make an in-out call on the line, and the entire sideline, both teams were in his way, and his view was obstructed. So everyone got a TMF. It was like the first time I'd ever seen that happen. It was kind of remarkable.
But in the end, the observer's trying to do their job, and by standing on the line, you're preventing the observer from doing their job. And so I don't know if you can see at home right now, there's a timeout that's been called. Red Dawn just taking an opportunity to sort of regroup. Because again, right now it's it's mistakes on resets. It's holding the disc a little too long, I think, for Red Dawn. We saw such a blistering pace come out of them at the first part of this first half. And when we see them hold the disc slightly too long, that's been generating turnovers for Buda. So if I'm their coach, again, I'm saying, hey, we've got this. Let's just move the ball.
Yeah, a lot of teams sometimes need a refresher about their own identity and their own goals, and especially with young players under 20, sometimes training that attention is half the battle.
Forget young players. We still can't do it. I'm still playing in the club division.
I am still playing in the club division 2 slab.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you know.
I have excellent focus.
All right, Errant, let's not go too far.
As long as I'm caffeinated, I am very focused. You're funny.
I try to be.
We're doing great. A lot of chatty spectators are descending upon our space right now because we have a lot of the shade. So you're going to hear the volume up on the sideline mic here as more and more people come to the showcase field to watch what is shaping up to be a really great game. If you need to get a hold of me or Slap for any reason, if you want to heckle us for our ridiculous personalities, or if you want to give us some insight onto one of these teams, happy to have that interaction.
Errant, you think I need help heckling you?
No, I don't think that you need help heckling me. I'm just offering a gateway for people to engage and participate with us on social media in lieu of the trivia. Unless you can think of a trivia question, Slap. Do you have any obscure pieces of knowledge floating around in your brain?
Are we talking about in life or in frisbee?
No, it would have to be. It would have to be frisbee trivia.
Okay, I see. Well, so let's first also just talk about. So Buda's just come out in their own zone look, really just sort of slowing down Red Down's offense in this case. We see obviously the handlers set back, and these handlers in particular having, again, I actually have coached the 3 handlers that we're seeing back, do like to move the ball very quickly.
Oh, so unbeknownst to us, the production crew has well, no, I guess this comes from Tony. Tony is the trivia whisperer. Mm-hmm. So he is asking why Slap's nickname is Slap, and we would love for you to answer. Again, you can tweet at me, or you can confuse Nightlock if you so choose, and let us know your guess for why this nickname, the origination story of the nickname.
This will be fun.
Yeah.
I feel like the fiction is better than truth here.
Okay. Red Dawn off to the races. And despite a really great bid from Orion Cable, that timeout must have injected a little bit of energy and a little bit of confidence into that Red Dawn. Oh, that was well played.
And again, when we see Red Dawn being able to move the disc, they're not holding the disc for more than 2 to 3 seconds. Their pace is so much better. I love Rosner's response. Please catch that.
Yeah. Towe and Rosner doing all the work that point. The rest of the teammates being like, yep.
Yeah, okay, hang on. You know who did the work at that point? That was the handlers to get it to these cutters, and then the cutters get to all the glory. But the handlers were the one who actually broke it through.
You were going to come at me with that handler
I'm gonna
V
come
cutter?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. No, you're not wrong. The handlers did move it through that junk look, and, you know, I think it's really hard sometimes as young cutters to figure out what to do against a zone in the backfield, right? We've seen already the tendency is to try to go really fast, right? Like, okay, we're past that first tier of defense.
Go.
We've escaped, right? Now we have to get away from them as fast as possible. And so, you know, there's a difference between, you know, going fast and hurrying. Was always the distinction that my high school basketball coach always said: be quick but don't hurry, right? So you want to keep your advantage. You're past that tier of defense, but if you go too fast for your own legs and your own teammate, the chances that you immediately turn it over become rather
very high. Very
yes.
high, in fact.
So that was well done by them to kind of, they went very fast. They were off to the races, but they did it with some control and some intention, and I think that was the difference there.
And so now we're seeing Buda come out in a side stack. This is exciting. Again, they started the beginning of this game in a vert stack. Again, to the earlier point we were talking about, we're seeing these players learn multiple different offensive looks, and being able to execute between multiple looks is I mean, forget one. You're asking them to run to 2 or 3 offensive looks. That's impressive.
Appreciate that straight blade over the top of the zone there by
He was
Davis
in his
Brand.
way. He had to just go over.
Yep. It's underutilized. I think we use blades a lot as kind of edged throws that feel more like a real horizontal throw with some shape. That was just up, down, blade over the cup.
It's a Galti throw.
Yep. Maybe he plays in a Galti league. Is there a youth Galti league in
That's a
the
question.
Boston area?
Someone should answer that question.
That'd be great. Folks at home, is there a Gultimate League for the youth? Or are youth allowed to play in the adult Gultimate League out in that Boston area? I would be curious. Here we have Harwood again in one of the faded red hats. Sounds like.
It looks like there's some discussion. No.
Coaches are using this stoppage opportunity to talk to the downfield cutters.
What a nice break.
That was a really nice break. Also a good utilization of a stoppage to just take a look around.
And see the whole field.
And see the whole field. So now we have Shriver up here with Orion Cable.
Just outside.
Going all the way over to the other side to hit, I think that's Langston Lee for the goal.
That was such a beautiful throw, and more importantly, what a great use of the width of the field. We see the disc go from one side of the field to the other side of the field with that break throw, back to the close side of the field. We have someone in our shot, unfortunately.
Coach. Coach being a coach. Got to keep eyes on that.
And then just a beautiful cross-field look from the Buda player.
Langston Lee will be attending William and Mary College next year, in case anyone is watching from home. So Red Dawn up.
No, we have the score on, y'all.
Yeah, I think we have the score backwards. I believe Buda just took half.
8-6.
8-6. Went on a bit of a run there towards the end. So we appreciate the effort there with our little score widget. Glad we could get that right for you. We're going to take a halftime while these players rehydrate and refuel. Slap, you know a lot of these players from Red Dawn going into halftime down 2. What kind of message are they receiving in the shade, in their shade tent right now?
Well, one, calm down, I think is the biggest message. You know, again, you have the ability, you have the skill sets, you have the throwers. Just got to find the right people. And more importantly, don't hold on to the disc for so long. And if I'm Buda, I am trying to slow down Red Dawn, right? And you see it. You see the decision to put out these sort of junk looks, which is designed explicitly to slow down Red Dawn. I would be doing more of the same if I was the Buda coach, saying, you know what? If I recognize that their strength is their speed, I'm putting out looks that's designed to stop it or slow it down. So I suspect sort of Buda doing more of the same. And really, I think for Red Dawn, it's just sort of a breathe. Breathe just for a second, y'all.
And that has been Coach's Corner with Slab. We're going to take a quick break so that we can drink some water and eat some food, and we're going to meet you right back here for the second half of action of this pool play under 20 YCC Boys Division game. See you back in a second. Want to welcome you back to the second half of coverage. This is a pool play game in the U-20 boys division against Boston area Buda and Bay area Red Dawn. Really excited to be here with Slap, my good friend. I'm Erin Maraca. We've been covering this game in the heat today. It's been very exciting. As Slap has mentioned, it's been the tale of two offenses and how the defenses of each team kind of seek to contain or mitigate those styles. Currently, Red Dawn is up 8-6, and the sideline is about to get pretty noisy and rowdy as kind of the quote-unquote family of both of these squads is showing up in force to support their programs.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny. We were just talking during the break. So the Red Dawn, if you've been seeing on the cameras, all of these Red Dawn players have dyed their hair. Let us talk about dedication to their team name.
Got to be on brand.
It's true, you do.
Here we have Karen fielding the disc for Buda coming in offense for the second half. Red Dawn appears to be in a person offense, and they take a shot. Sorry, Buda takes a shot at number 27, Orion Cable, and it's a bit too far. So we will very quickly transition into seeing the D-line's offense for Red Dawn.
Yeah, and this is what I think they were hoping for. They were hoping for a quick turn, and now the question is, can Red Dawn move the disc quickly? What is it? Quickly but not hurry. Wait, hurrying but
Be
not
quick, but don't hurry.
Okay.
It's funny, the phrases that stick with you, right? There are like 3 or 4 from my basketball days that are stuck in my head, and I find that I say them a lot, and they apply to Ultimate too. So,
because there's so much of these sports that overlap, just, you know, in terms of skill sets, in terms of strategies. I mean, we see, even if you were to sort of poll these players, I imagine a bunch of them were basketball players before.
yeah. Bush's pass is batted away by Cole Davis Brand.
I think it left the field.
It did. It came all the way over here behind one of the shade tents. So we'll bring that disc back into play with Davis Brand and Buda back on offense.
I would expect a break throw.
Okay.
Open side.
Oh, a break throw. I was like, bold of you to call a break when Red Dawn doesn't have the disc slap. No, Ryan Cable taking a shot, looking for Harwood.
Break
oh,
throw. Break throw.
That's
Does that not count?
I don't know. That was over the top of the entire stack.
To the break side.
I mean, that's where it ended up. You're fine. You did a hot take. We appreciate it. We gotcha. So that is Buda with not a clean hold, but a hold nonetheless. Something they definitely had to do. Often the first step in any comeback is a clean hold, or a hold nonetheless. So now we'll get to see how Buda has decided during halftime they are going to, get Red Dawn out of their comfort zone and maybe try to earn this break back.
Yeah, you could see the replay coming from Garrett Bush. Just unfortunately, it was a really tight window. I know Kylie was trying to get out of that space, and now we're seeing the replay of Buda's offense going to the break side. Garrett Bush trying to make a play on it. So close, in fact. And, it's funny. If he actually continued to watch that disc, I think he could have gotten that D.
I agree with that.
But, yes, you're right. Hold for Buda. Unfortunately, a wasted break opportunity for Red Dawn. Now Red Dawn needs a hold and then get their D-line back on, generate some more turnovers, and see if they can get back into this game. Also, I think our score is 9-6 at the moment, y'all.
Yes. Down on the field, the score board that I imagine the volunteers are keeping for U.S. Open, the score reads 9-6. So we'll double check that and make sure that we are correct.
And by the way, a quick shout out for the volunteers here. Again, we've been talking about this heat. We've been talking about this humidity. These volunteers have been out there. They do not have shade tents. They have been meticulously trying to keep track of stats. Of course, just also being sort of the liaison for any field needs as well. I mean, it takes so many people to make an event like this happen. And, Minnesota Ultimate has done a great job in sort of cultivating and bringing a bunch of members of the community to sort of help and ensure that we have basically a volunteer at every field.
Yes, it's a big push in the local community here in Minnesota, and a number of club teams say no to other tournaments that are happening this weekend so that they can be here to volunteer. Oh, this is a little bit errant of a throw, but well run out by number 8, Landsman. We're swinging through Towe.
I love the handler put it out here. Look.
Yeah, out to Leo Gordon. And he'll try to go upline, but there are like three poaches in the way, and contact occurred, and we're gonna have a stoppage while we figure out.
This does not actually look like a little injury, I think.
Let's see it again.
We're gonna see a replay of it. You know, unfortunately, not a great decision from Leo Gordon, and he's gonna appreciate me saying this. I'm particularly hard on him because I think he is such an excellent player, but you know, just seeing that Buda saw that this was coming, as the handler, there has to be a situation where you say, nope, I'm going to go the other way. And unfortunately, just, again, clearly inadvertent, just that collision ended up happening. It looks like the player's been taken off the field. And it looks like perhaps even Buda might be having a substitute come in or out.
I think that would be a smart play here, regardless. There were a number of players involved in that collision, and taking a breather and reevaluating, I think, is important for any player in this situation. But I'll echo your sentiments here.
There does need to be contact for dangerous play.
Oh, we are having a discussion about how dangerous this play was. So the offensive player on that upline cut
dangerous play is saying
is calling dangerous play.
You guys created a dangerous situation. That's what led to the contact, right?
The observer is explaining this rule.
So if you feel that you agree that what you did created a dangerous situation,
an
it's
interesting
treated
situation.
As a foul, so it's going to be his disc.
In general, and a little used rule as well.
You can the dangerous play.
It's cool that we can hear the observer, actually. I didn't realize that they were mic'd, sounds like.
Yeah, I didn't realize that this particular observer was mic'd either. I'm not sure if the folks at home can actually hear them or not, or whether it's just in our ear. The conversation, of course, occurring, if your motion on the field creates danger for someone else, you can be called for dangerous play, and that would impact who would retain possession or get the.
If you don't know, just don't
this was a dangerous situation.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna have an uncontested dangerous play. It's gonna be White's disc. It's gonna restart with the ground check, and you walk it to the line.
So what we're seeing right now is that the Red Dawn player is going to keep possession.
No, once you get to the line, you ground check it there, and then they can start stalling.
And Riley Kirkham Davis, who's come in for the injured player, is actually going to keep the disc on the line, and they are just going to essentially reset the play at this point.
Yeah, so that's an uncontested, dangerous play situation. But to come back kind of to your point, Slap, I was gonna back you up. Those decisions about hospital situation throws really rest on the shoulders of the thrower. And in that particular situation, I don't like throwing that player into that upline space where they're blind like that. And I think if Gordon is the player that you believe he will be one day, that he goes to a coach now and hears that feedback directly. But here we will see the conversion on the point as Gordon finds a receiver in a similar path. I believe that's Rosner again.
Would you was also, I don't know if people could see at home, there's actually a wonderful moment. The players on Buda are actually talking to the Red Dawn players about the play. Now that the point is actually over, the two players involved in the call went to come talk to both Leo Gordon and to the injured player as well. And I appreciate that a lot. You know, again, part of being a competitor, part of being here trying to win a game is that we sometimes find situations which are not ideal. And as much as we want to prevent them from happening, what I do appreciate is that there's a discussion that happens afterwards and an acknowledgement of just, hey, I see you. This sucks. Okay, we're good. We're moving on.
Totally agree. And well handled there. I'm glad we got to hear from the observer there a little bit more information. Sometimes just having that educational observer on the field to help, right, just to help translate and let them know and give some context about rules is helpful. Even though it may not be an active call, I think it makes everybody take a breath and think a little bit before they respond in a way that, those situations can get heated sometimes when people feel like it was malicious contact. And so just keeping the situation calm.
Even more than
really
malicious
beneficial.
contact. I don't think anyone enjoys getting hit.
Right, yeah. The physicality of that. So Red Dawn coming down here again in a poach look for Buda, and Buda working it through the same kind of cast of characters that we've seen all game.
Yeah, we have
Davis, Brand, and Harwood, and Cairn, I believe.
And this is the turnover that Red Dawn is looking for. Now the question is, can Red Dawn capitalize? They're right outside the end zone. They need to execute on that end zone set that they have in their back pocket. And the question will be, will that be an up line or will that be to the break side?
To the break side.
To the break side!
And that was number 10, Chang, to this player. Whose number?
Luca.
To Luca. Speischer. Thank you, Internet, for correcting my pronunciation on that, because I don't know everyone's name by heart like Slap does over here.
Well, it's funny, as the coach, I don't actually memorize their last names.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah, so we're just seeing the replay of the turnover. It was just a little errant pass between two handlers, but really wonderful break side movement for Red Dawn. Again, much easier, less dangerous, just gives you a lot of room to work with. Even though that pass wasn't perfect, again, with that amount of space, you'll score.
Yeah, that pass and that low release came at a weird time because there was a sudden little gust of wind. Again, the wind here not consistent, bouncing between like less than 1 mile per hour and maybe like a 3 mile per hour gust. Definitely not something that would affect any of these throwers, but when it's a surprise, it can definitely pop a throw like that. So well read by Speischer to get up for that, catch it at his highest point, and the disc's kind of optimal
He's got
path
go-go
there.
gadget legs.
Go-go gadget legs.
Yes,
Okay.
I've watched this kid. I mean, what is he listed as for height?
Speischer is listed as 5'6".
No, he plays like he's like 5'9".
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate, I love coming up with ways to describe people who have the kind of ups. And there's a player that I've watched since he was in high school that I commonly tell people that he brings his own trampoline, right? Like he just carries it in his pocket. Because
I
he's
have
got
a trampoline,
springs.
but I'm holding it, so I can't go anywhere.
I like that too. I'm sorry I couldn't jump very high. I was holding onto this trampoline.
I'm sorry. Next time, I'll let it go. I'm sorry. Okay, or how about you just throw it at me?
Yep. Amazing. So we are in this 1-point game, and I believe we are back into matching our screen to the sideline scoreboard. So Buda is up 9-8.
And what we're seeing Red Dawn again is sort of playing this saggy 3-3-1 style. And notice we haven't seen those scoobers come out from Buda, which is how they really, shredded this zone before. Right now, just sort of patient, small movements, little passes. It was number 22 before. I'm curious what he's.
Oh, that's a good find with that blade. We're seeing Karen back with the disc again, working with Davis Brand. I think this is Shriver on this near side as the third handler.
And one of those instances where you do get the disc to the second line of defense, but couldn't necessarily get a reset there. Same thing. It was good recovery coming out of Red Dawn to keep it so that even though you've gotten past that first line of defense, we're seeing some fun throws coming out of number 22.
Davis Brand has a full arsenal here of blade angles, which I appreciate. It is really funny, though, that you say that there aren't as many scoobers because I don't know if I would feel comfortable being the coach on the sideline saying more scoobers. Right? So it's one thing to be like, yep, that worked last time. And I think kind of another and reluctant thing for a youth coach to say, we should do 6 more scoobers this point because that's what works. So this one, just blades, I think, are pretty functional right now.
That's the advice. Hey, you know what? Less scoobers, more blades.
More blades. Maybe one. I think blades are a little bit more easy to control sometimes.
So if you're actually watching 22, one of the things, if you notice how he's holding the disc, he's holding it to throw the scoober.
Oh, and then this little pop through, and it looks like number 12 is cramping. That's Luca Harwood. Gosh, I keep adding a D in there for no reason.
And again, we see Red Dawn maintain that junk look, even though they were just outside the end zone. They did not transition over into person, continued to stay with it, and sort of sag into these lanes, which again, as we see these Buda handlers been doing, they find those little holes, and then as a result can score, where we would otherwise see a person on that individual and pushing them to, say, a break side.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see zone looks that don't fire out when you get into the end zone. But we have seen a lot, actually, of that this weekend because it's something that many of the ICC Japanese teams do. They run a zone the entire length of the field. They never fire out of it. They stay in it perfectly, even when the offense is, just knocking on that door. And it's, I think it's just a different mentality when you do that, right? Like, we aren't firing out of this. So I think it might be time, Slap, for you to tell us how you got your nickname, unless, I'm not seeing anyone, no one's tweeted me to tell me the answer, and unfortunately my phone is about to die. So why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home.
Sure. So I started my career at UCSD. I was a freshman in 2001, which is the year UCSD actually won their last national championship. For those of you at home who should know, the Psychos won nationals this past year at college nationals. The prior one was in 2001. I was not on that roster because I was playing on the softball team. I was actually playing on the D2 softball team that year. And my sophomore year, I stopped playing and I switched over to Ultimate Frisbee just after they had won. Darn it. And as you know, or should know, UCSD offers nicknames to their players, and some of the ways they do that is they ask for fun trivia. And my trivia fact was that as a softball player, I was a slapper, which is a left-handed batter. And they, the coaches, the captains that year, which included Alicia White, who was also a former softball player, decided to just shorten that down to slap. And it stuck. It's been 18 years. It's stuck.
And that's how nicknames go. Buda in the red zone. Orion Cable finding CJ Kuipert, I believe, for that goal. Unfortunately, one of these Red Dawn throws came in a little bit too hot and bounced off the chest of Aiden Curry to kind of produce
we're just seeing the
this
replay
opportunity
right
for Buda. And that, I think, makes it 10-8.
It should be 11-8. It's 11-8 now.
There's a little bit of glare on that sideline scoreboard over there. So yeah, 11-8 now. Buda up on Red Dawn. You know, Red Dawn coming in as the 4 seed and maybe expected to take this game, but typically in these pool play situations, this is the matchup that we maybe expect a little bit of a quote-unquote upset, even though it's really only that 1 seed change. I don't know, what are you seeing for Red Dawn? You still want them to calm down?
Well, I mean, at this point now, if those of you at home should have just heard the horn. That is our soft cap horn. What that means is that we have now hit towards the end of the round, so we have to find a cap for the point. At this point now, at the end of this point, whoever has the highest score, assuming Red Dawn scores, it'll be Buda. It'll be a game to 13. So at this point, unfortunately, the advice really is we have to move faster because now time is working against us. And so my hope is that we're going to see a very clean, quick hold out of Red Dawn. I don't necessarily know if it should be from a deep look. I think it just can come from that handler movement and just relying on those cutters to get open.
They send it out to Kirkman Davis and then isolate Leo Gordon.
Oh, there's an injury call.
This attempted bid landing a little rough on the defender.
I mean, I will say these fields are excellent. It's an excellent facility, but there are some rough patches.
We get to see this again, see how this landing went for this defender. I think a good effort, certainly. It gets up in it. Oh, it might be a cramp, actually. Looks like after the bid occurred, he did get up again. Starts to get up. Oh, either a knee buckled or a cramp occurred.
And again, let's not forget that it's still hot out here, y'all.
Yeah.
And with these players, especially because it's their second game, at this point they have been playing Frisbee for essentially 6 hours, including warm-up time. It's really hard to sort of maintain your bodies, particularly for younger athletes who are not necessarily used to heat. Heck, even for the ICC players who are not used to heat, it's hard for us to maintain our bodies and remember what we need to do to sort of keep our bodies in a position to be effective.
Kirkman Davis and Gordon working up that far sideline, but a hammer to Curry from Gordon. And we see Price.
It's a good solid hold. This is what Red Dawn needed.
Is that
That
Noah?
was to Seth Wells.
Oh, Seth Wells over there.
And again, now you've gotten it, now you have to find a way to stop Buda. Now the question is, does Red Dawn come out in a person defense, or do they continue to play that sort of zone look that they've been relying on thus far? It's somewhat been effective. They've gotten turnovers off of it, but on the other hand, it takes time, and now clocks do matter. So again, this is now a game to 13 because you add 2 points to the highest score. In this case, Buda having 11, you add 2 points to that, and that is our now game cap score. So it's essentially first to 13 at this point. So if you're kind of doing the math, with Red Dawn needs to score another 4 points to Buda's 2. So again, the road is challenging, but I think I'm going to remain optimistic that Red Dawn can meet. But what we're also seeing at this point appears to be,
I think it's a heat timeout.
That's right. So they also do another heat timeout at soft cap. The rules are that you're supposed to do a heat timeout at 4 or at 12, but if you're not at 12 by the time the soft cap comes on, they are taking a 3-minute break. And what this is, these are rules that were instituted by USAU, understanding that these athletes are competing under pretty onerous conditions at times, and we need to acknowledge that these bodies need to take a break. It's been really great to sort of see this implemented throughout this weekend. I know it was implemented at College Nationals. This was earlier this year, which was in Texas. But we do, heat's a thing, and giving athletes just a chance to just breathe, get some water, get those fluids in. I hope some of those Buda players are drinking some pickle juice. That old remedies still work, or at least having some bananas, because those are the things that we need to sort of replace the elements that we've been losing while we've been out just sort of sweating it all out on the field.
Yeah, we're going to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about our coverage tomorrow. We're going to start right away at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. I know we are displaying this in Eastern Time. These games tomorrow morning are from the ICC division, but they will be on tape delay. So the first round of the day, we'll see Nomadic Tribe from Japan versus Sub-Zero from Minneapolis in that 5th place finals game. And Tony and I will be there to talk you through that. And then at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time or 10:45 a.m. Central Time, we'll see Fury versus Huck from Japan in the 5th place finals on the women's side. Excited to see you all there back again tomorrow. Really enjoying all this live stream coverage. I know, Slap, you are playing in the women's division. The international component of this ICC club experience, I think, has been really interesting this year with the format change. There was an international team in every pool, which means that every U.S. team at the tournament got to play an international team, which is always, stylistically different.
And culturally different.
And culturally different, and challenges us both mentally and physically to do new and different things. Do you have any kind of collections of moments or takeaways from the experience that you've had interacting with those international players this weekend?
Actually, yeah. So I'm playing with Nightlock, and our first day we played against Revolution, team out from Colombia. And then today we played against Uno out of Japan. So we have 2 Japanese teams, a team from Colombia and a team from Germany in the women's division. And one of the things I encouraged my teammates to do is before the end of the game, at the end of the games, we've been doing these spirit circles, which is basically an opportunity for the teams to sort of interact, talk about how the game went, offer feedback and or positive notes on the game. And I went to Nightlock and I said, hey, for the first game, anyone speak Spanish here? One of the players said, I'm okay. And I said, well, you should speak in our spirit circle. because these international teams are coming. They are recognizing they're playing in an English-based system, and for many of those players who are coming internationally, English is neither their first language, nor is it a language they're particularly familiar with. When we were talking to Uno said, only 2 of us have even passable English skills. The rest of us do not know any English. And so one of the things that we talk about is how do you communicate? And what's one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of these hand signals coming into the game as well. It's an opportunity to sort of just like cross that language barrier. It's very clear as to what we're trying to do. But also during these spirit circles, I think it's very meaningful for American teams to make an effort to speak a second language, because we are asking these international counterparts to be speaking 2 languages to us. So that's, I think, one of the most memorable things. We had that happen in our Revolution game. She spoke Spanish, and we had a woman on our team who speaks Japanese who spoke in our spirit circle against Uno. And I think it caught Uno off guard, because she's a small blonde woman.
I really like that, Slap. I value that attempt was made at communication. The heat timeout on our field, of course, has ended, which means that we have Red Dawn's opportunity to try and earn a break, and they do calm down in a bit of a junk look.
This is going to be an interesting matchup.
But Buda seeks out Orion Cable, that 6'5" target.
Tall man.
And he finds Harwood in the corner, and that was a 2-throw offensive point. Not exactly what Red Dawn needed in this moment, but they tried that zone again. Slap.
Well, I mean, it's a good effort by the Red Dawn player. He had good position, but at this point, even the camera angle will show you that's about a foot height difference. It's a difficult matchup to win. So on the one hand, you're like, okay, well, we found good positioning, but on the other hand, I'm not sure if that was necessarily the matchup Red Dawn was looking for in that situation. But now again, a lot more pressure for Red Dawn, because now, wow, that is a great grab in the replay. Great camera angles, y'all. But now a much harder task for Red Dawn, because Buda at this point is 1 point away from winning this game, and Red Dawn still has to get 4. So not only do they need a hold, they're going to need 3 breaks to take this game.
That's a challenge. That's a steep uphill climb right there, especially with the amount of time left.
Right, definitely. And again, with the heat, and it's hard to maintain, because especially you're noticing a lot of the same players on these lines. How many points can you play them in a row? Again, we've seen at least 3 cramps so far in this game. We're asking a lot of these young players at this point. And again, late in the day, late second game, it'll be a real question to see whether Red Dawn has the legs at this point.
Got to make a move. Here we're seeing Lee with the pull. Kind of the expected O players from Red Dawn out here on the field right now. Buda playing person, but just a little bit loose in some of these situations, but Red Dawn sends number 4, Rosner, and he reads that very well, and that's a very quick offensive hold for Red Dawn. That is a good paced O-line. Now we need the defensive, effort
stop
to back it up.
Yep.
We'll see that again as well.
And I think that was Leo Gordon with there he is, holding the disc. And you notice again, he started as a handler position, but what Red Dawn has done is switched him into a cutter role. The last couple of sequences for Red Dawn, we are seeing, nice, also very good read by Rosner. Leo coming out of the number 3 spot in what we call sort of a pull play. Pull play just meaning that you sort of preset cutters that you're looking for to create isolation movement. But again, now the question is, can Red Dawn get a break? This is it. It's make or break in some ways. If
break or make.
Break or
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I don't think that does.
I tried really hard.
You did.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
E for effort.
Thanks. I did it. E for Errant. E for effort. Yeah. Can you tell we're also reaching the end of my day?
Yeah.
Getting a little bit loose up here on the scaffolding, but we're gonna continue to see whether Red Dawn is still committed to that zone. I think we were going to talk about it, but then there was a little bit of a stoppage. One of the downsides of zone defense, even if you think it's the right defensive tactic for your situation, is that it does slow down the pace of play. So now we're playing clock in addition to the opponent. And if you continue to throw zone, each of these points might take minutes rather than a few seconds or 30 seconds. And
if you're at home, you're noticing that clock. counting down to 0.
There's just not a lot of time, and you know, you got to be really sure that you're gonna
Scuba.
Yeah, Scuba. You're gonna have to be really sure that you can generate a D with a zone set. Otherwise, you might eat up
All of your time.
5 minutes of the remaining 8.5. I'd also, I think, like to see the Red Dawn coaches just speed up their line calling a little bit and get their players on the line faster to indicate readiness, and kind of shorten up the time between points, right? Sometimes you got to control what you can control, and that's a spot where you have more control and can go faster without relying on the other team.
Yeah, and that said, you know, the rules state that you get 90 seconds between offensive points to set up your line, and then there's an additional 20 seconds given to the defense, because obviously they're responding to whatever you're seeing, to get a point moving, which in some ways feels like a very short amount of time. In other ways, it feels like a very long amount of time, particularly if you're looking at this clock right now thinking 7 minutes to go. And this is great patience from Buda. I mean, I don't know if they know that there's a clock for them to be thinking about at this point. And we're hearing a fire call actually coming now from...
Oh, here we go. Make a move, Red Dawn. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we need.
Oh.
Well, now I think there's some confusion. There's been some discussion about a fire call, and it looks like a couple players are playing person on, and looks like that front line is still sort of playing.
All right, well, Karen is working it with Davis Brand.
What a nice swing. I mean, that was a 35-yard swing out to space.
Turns out that Cole Davis Brand is a very good thrower. But
so we're learning.
Yes, and then Shriver was out here in space. But this good offensive line, oh, here's a scoober. When you have a 6'5" receiver like Orion Cable that you can aim scoobers at, the difficulty of that throw maybe gets a little bit less intense.
Actually, just his accuracy right now.
Right. That's also good, but I think when you're starting out with a scoober and you have a tall practice buddy to throw to, but look at that.
Wow, that is an arsenal of throws, and what a way for Buda to end this game.
Just a throwing clinic there by Davis Brand. We're going to send Slap down on the field to talk with one of these young gentlemen and get their take on their tournament and how things are going. We are going to, as we do, kind of denote a play of the game, and the play of the game, which we will see in a little bit here, is that Big Sky by number 27, Orion Cable. I do recognize his name from last year. I believe he was a U-20 standout on the World's team, but I do not have the internet access to confirm that. But here we see it again. It's one thing to be that tall. It's another thing to read discs well, go up on time, right, and make clever decisions once you have the disc in your hands. I don't want to undersell his skill at all. I think sometimes we do that and take for granted this idea that, you know, tall can't be taught, but to be to kind of put a little bit more of an emphasis on that. There are a lot of tall players who spend their entire career just being tall, and I think what we're seeing in this like new crop of young players are tall athletes who can throw, can step out far, can read discs well, can find body position, can come down safely, and kind of own a lot more versatile of a skill set than maybe what we have typically thought of just a tall athlete. So want to give credit where credit is due there for Cable. Certainly one of the players of the game, perhaps. Maybe we'll get to talk to him directly. Really appreciate you all tuning in today for this pool play matchup on the first day of the Youth Club Championship. Much more ultimate to be had over the course of the weekend. Tony and I are going to talk you through a little bit of what happened today and maybe give you a sneak peek about what's going to happen tomorrow. But first, we're going to go downfield, or down onto the field, where Slap has gotten Orion Cable to talk to.
Hey,
Here we go, Slap.
y'all. Well, so this is Slap here down on the field now with Errant back up top, and we have our player of the game. This is Orion, and I hope you notice the height difference between me and him. But the reason he's got player of the game and why we're interviewing him is for that ridiculous sky that you had earlier in the game. I don't know if you remember, it was just about near the end of that game. It was that deep shot up, great read. How do you feel, player of the game?
It feels good. It's kind of normal though. Okay. So yeah.
All right, well, so obviously you had 2 games today. Who was your first opponent against?
Atlanta, yeah.
And how did that game go?
We lost. I'm not sure by how much, but yeah.
So it probably feels really good to end on a win then.
Exactly, yeah. 2 games today. Winning the last game felt great. So we're on to tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. And then what do you have for tomorrow?
I have no idea. Yeah.
Sometimes the role of the player, right? Yeah. The coach tells you where you're going to go and how to do next. Well, congratulations on being player of the game. How long have you been with the BUDA program?
This is my 3rd year with BUDA. Yeah.
Did you play previously with this roster or with different rosters?
With this roster, yeah.
Well, cool. Glad to have you back here. Congratulations on player of the game, and best of luck for the rest of this tournament.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, man.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Hey, we're back here, Errant and Tony. Errant, how was that game for you?
You know, I was really impressed throughout the first half how evenly matched the teams were, and you know, it was certainly, you expect a pretty good game from the 4 seed and the 5 seed in tournaments where the seeding turns out to be accurate. And then I just think BUDA made some adjustments and made some plays and were able to find the breaks that they needed in order to build and then protect a lead. And Red Dawn kind of making a few of those miscues and errors in tight spaces, or find themselves in a little bit of an unfortunate area. BUDA's key difference was, I think, the effort that they made on their defensive marks. It certainly generated some short field turns. And despite really amazing plays by some of these Red Dawn players that we're lucky enough to be seeing a replay of right now, just kind of unable to play against the clock and put together a run they needed in an efficient amount of time to make a comeback. So both teams have a lot of ultimate left to play for the weekend, and I'm sure that we'll see them again later in bracket play. But for now, I think we're going to circle back with Tony. Tony, you operated the baseline camera during that game, right?
Yeah, I was on camera that game. It's pretty hot down over there, but I think the takeaway for me, just watching through the lens, really is, you know, how much skill set you see out on the field there. You know, obviously they're not knowing the lane. There's a little lack of knowing the lane, so the turnovers are coming there as they're finding their spacing. But the throwing and of these players and the cutting is amazing. It was super remarkable.
I can't agree more. I think the takeaway for me every year that we watch these YCC games is just the level of play continues to increase and increase, which I find both like refreshing and unsettling to a certain amount. These players are going to continue to elevate their game. Some of them are still just 16 and have, right, like maybe 10 years before they peak, maybe more, depending. And that's an incredible thing to look forward to in our sport. I want to make sure that we circle back on some of the other action today. I know you were able to keep track of some other information maybe back in that ICC portion of the tournament.
Yeah, talking about the club division, Aaron, you and I were here on the microphone yesterday for a pretty exciting crossover game with seeding implications with Colombia Medellin Revolution versus Boston Brute Squad. We saw a pretty exciting comeback from Brute Squad. They take it at the end in a 16-15 double game point. Both those teams played other opponents in semifinals, Scandal, I believe, and Riot. And Revolution comes back to defeat Riot on double game point, and Brute Squad holds off Scandal. And so those teams will face off again tomorrow for the championship here.
That's going to be really exciting.
Right. It's a rematch time for the 2 previous champions that both won this tournament.
Incredible.
In the past 2 years.
I know we're going to do some other ICC games in the morning that are going to be on tape delay, so we won't be live with all of our friends following along at home, but we're going to be able to see Sub-Zero versus Nomadic Tribe. One of the other teams from Japan. So that'll be an interesting matchup as well. When we've when we saw Sub-Zero take on the Buzz Bullets, you know, we were really impressed with their ability to kind of defensively get in the way of what Buzz Bullets really wanted to do. So I think that's going to be fun for us to watch them take on kind of a stylistically similar team in Nomadic Tribe and maybe wreak havoc in similar defensive spaces. But that being said, we don't know that much about Nomadic Tribe. They could be completely different.
Yeah, we do know that they're the sort of like the #2 men's team out of Japan. Sub-Zero already defeated the Buzz Bullets, the #1 team. So who's to say? They should win that game, but I'm not gonna.
I don't want to speculate, right? It's a long tournament. It's still a three-day tournament for every person in attendance, and that's a lot of ultimate and a lot of hot weather. We saw a lot of cramps today, some injuries happened. We hope everybody went home okay and has a chance to recover and play again tomorrow. I want to take a second and thank Fulcrum Media. The camera operators in this heat did an amazing job, including you, Tony, on that baseline.
Well, I'm going to throw it back. Gabe Port, Sarah Edwards, Cameron Hodgkinson, Ian Lunger, Luke Johnson, of course, in the van. Joshua Havens, his son Theo Havens turned 2 yesterday. I can't believe I missed that, but I got it in just now. My son Soren was watching earlier, so props. Eddie, of course, and Kylie Ma and Audrey are some of our other players in action for the crew.
Yeah, we're really happy to be working with them, and you know, they're in an air-conditioned.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Some of them are in an air-conditioned space and have made for you a top 5 of the ICC competition today, and also a top 5 of the Youth Club Championship games that we watched today. I'm Erin Maraca, and this is Tony Leonardo, and we really appreciate you participating today, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Thanks a lot.